I always felt that after you went through all that work, the only thing you had to show for it was the film. And you got to keep the film. I mean, that's the backbone. That's what it all goes back to. That's the heritage, the film. The old Bibles, the bones in the ground, they dig them up.
In 1962, for $3,000, my dad bought the film rights for the NFL championship game. And I was a fullback at Colorado College then, and I'll always remember his phone call to me. He said, "I can see by your grades that all you've been doing out there is playing football and going to the movies. But that makes you uniquely qualified for this new job." So I quit school and came back to Philadelphia to work for my dad. And since then, NFL Films has been the only job I've ever had. 38 years. And you know, I thought I knew something about everything that we'd ever shot. But last year, Phil Tuckett, a producer who's been working with me for 31 years, found in our film vault some unmarked cans that they were so old they were rusted shut. Well, we opened them up, and inside was this uncut black and white negative film, and it must have been shot during the exhibition games prior to the 1964 season, because I'd never seen any of this stuff. But after we looked at it, we said, boy, this is a great time capsule of the 1960s. So Phil decided to put together a research team, and they dug even deeper into the archives to see what else they could find. This series is the result of that search, and we decided to call it The Lost Treasures of NFL Films. Because that's what they are, a never-before-seen record of the growth of pro football, and also of the growth of that little company my dad started back in 1962. When my dad started filming pro football, he used to tell his cameraman, "Let the film run like water. We can't miss anything. Film's the cheapest thing we've got. Shoot everything that moves." He said, "We're historians. We're recording the game for posterity." Now, a lot of this early footage never got used, but after more than 35 years in what Dad used to call the wine cellar, these shots are more valuable than ever. They've aged very well. And now they're a colorful reminder of the way the game used to be. And this forgotten footage also tells a story of Tiny Blair Motion Pictures. That was named after my sister, and how it evolved into NFL Films. And this was a time when Halas and Lombardi shared the field. How about those hats? Cheerleaders used megaphones in those days. Players drank out of the water bucket. All the kicking was done straight ahead by big men, not one skinny sidewinder in the group. Fans dressed like they were going to church. Look at this guy, though. He was wearing something extra. And back then, you could smoke on the sidelines and up in the stands, and no one cared. Who knew about secondhand smoke? Then television started showing up on the sidelines. But this is what we were shooting at the time, these little wind-up Bell & Howell movie cameras, trying to get close to the action, but yet without becoming part of it. Seeing this footage for the first time reminds me of why I love this era so much. I was 21 when I went to work for Dad, and there were only 14 teams in the NFL. But I could tell you something about every player in the league. I could name every offensive lineman. They seemed larger than life to me then, and maybe even a little bit tougher than the players of today. Right from the start, we experimented with slow-motion photography to show the subtleties of the game, things that TV had overlooked. Dad felt that slow motion was pure cinema. This was movie making perfectly matched to the grace and the beauty and the violence of pro football. Who could forget Tom the Bomb Tracy? He's finishing up his career with the Redskins, and that's punter Bobby Joe Green. You can tell he's a kicker. He's not wearing a face mask. For a year, Phil and his guys dug and they explored and they scrounged through thousands of cans of film. Some of it so rusted, you needed metal cutters to open them. What you'll see in this show is the best of 30 hours of lost treasures from the 1960s that we rediscovered and restored. Not one shot has ever been seen on television until now. And we not only found footage of all the great players of the day, but also some shots of other players that we shouldn't forget. And I thought it would be great to track down some of these guys and interview them for the first time. So you'll be meeting Joe Rutkins, Brady Keys, and the Catawba Claw, that's Bucky Pope, during the next hour. You might not remember them or even know who they were, but as far as I'm concerned, they were all lost treasures.
I was always into sports. I was a jock all my life. And to me, the best sport to film at that time was pro football. Even the field is shaped like a movie screen, and there's 8 seconds and the play stops, and then there's another 8 seconds and the play stops. And there was a lot of action. So, you get a couple of guys who know a little bit about the game, and we decided that we're going to shoot pro football.
Dad hired director Dan Endy, and Blair Motion Pictures paid $3,000 for the rights to the '62 championship game.
Yeah, 1962. That's the game I'm talking about. And I think this game was about -10 with the chill factor. That's the wind blowing. That was just a severe afternoon to shoot movies of a football game. Well, thank God I didn't know more. I didn't realize that the film could freeze. I didn't realize that a cameraman, if he put his face against the camera, it would stick to the camera. So I didn't know about that. I just said, let's go. Shoot, that's all. Shoot everything that moves.
And I'll never forget how cold it was in Yankee Stadium that day. And the wind, that was worse than the cold. And the pregame, Y.A. Tittle's passes were getting blown all over the field. The quality of this footage amazes me. It was shot on Ektachrome film stock, and for some reason Kodak stopped making it. It's too bad because